Okay, so I'm going to do this quick video here. It's my birthday, so I thought I would do a video on birthdays and how they're celebrated in India, using astrological timing, and then also how we're typically used to doing it with the Gregorian calendar timing, which is the date in the Gregorian calendar that you were born. Now, the Gregorian calendar is not really timed to celestial phenomena so much. It's actually a yearly calendar. It's timed to the Earth going around the Sun and trying to get that as close as possible. I mean, it's not totally wrong. It was developed after actually, thousands of years of trying to get a calendar that makes sense, because the Earth going around the Sun is not a consistent amount of time. It's like 365 and a quarter days. That's why every 4 years we have a leap year. It's to try to, get that correct. So it's a solar year. It's an annual calendar. Sorry, it's based on the year, which is called a Sora year, which is how long it takes the Earth to go around the Sun. It starts here, and then 365 and a quarter days, it comes back to that same point. That's what the Gregorian calendar is based on. But that has nothing to do with the ongoing celestial phenomena. For instance, the sun-moon cycles, that's an entire timing cycle. Many Eastern calendars are based on that. For instance, the months start when the sun and moon come together, and other things like that, not based on some day that's predetermined. January 21st is the first day of Aquarius or whatever it is. Those things are timed to the actual celestial phenomena in the East. And so your birthday is roughly a solar return phenomena, when the sun comes back to its birth position. Now, it's not actually that, because it's roughly that in the Gregorian calendar, because the sun will generally come back to the same day that you were born. If you live to be more than 70, though, it probably won't. It won't be on the same day the older you get. But it's generally a solar approximation. But in India, they have what's called the Varsha Pole, which is the literal solar return. It's when the sun comes back to the exact degree where it was in the sky when you were born. So when I was born, the sun was, using sidereal zodiac, 1625 of Gemini. So that makes me a Cancer in Western astrology. Yeah, warm and fuzzy Cancer, that's me. So you see 1625, this is the exact moment that the sun came back, 1624, and then 10 minutes later, 1625. So the exact moment of my solar return was actually July 2nd, 2013 at 12:36 a.m. And you see it's 1625 is where the sun is here. That's on July 2nd, 2013. And in my birth chart, it was 1625. This is July 2nd, 1963. So you can see that's the exact moment. That's an exact solar return. And you count and you cast a chart for that moment when you do what's called the Varsha Pole reading. Varsha means year, Pole means fruit. And it's a solar return chart. It's really about, you could say it's really like the soul's growth for that year, because that's what the sun is. It's the supreme self, the Paramatman. So, because Western astrology is very sun-centric, again, you would say an annual chart or the solar return is that day. In India, it's called Varsha Pole, and there's a lot of techniques where there are certain dasha systems certain dasha cycles that you use for just the annual chart, which condenses like a Vimshotri dasha cycle into 1 year. It's called the Muda dasha, and there are other kind of dashas where you can look at the year. You also have what's called the Munta and the Varshapati, which is the Lord of the Year, and there's all kinds of ways to do that specific kind of reading. It's very accurate. I used to do them quite a lot, but then because it was so predictive, and I kind of got away from astrology as fortune telling as far as doing readings, that I kind of stopped doing them. But they're very accurate, and it's also a good way to do research, because you can go back and look at your Varsha Pole charts for the last however many years and look and see how it played out. It's very good for doing research and seeing what's going to happen. But it's cast when the sun comes back to the same place as it was when you were born each year. Now again, understand this. We're saying when the sun comes back. Got to understand something. The sun is not moving, okay? The sun is sitting in the middle of the solar system, and it's actually the Earth going around the sun that gives the sun the appearance of moving. As the Earth moves like here, the sun appears to move from this constellation to that one. So the sun is not moving, okay? So basically this Varsha Pole is when the sun comes back to the exact same point. It's actually when the Earth comes back to the exact same point in its orbit. So the solar return Varsha Pole is really the Sun-Earth relationship. Now we have another one, and many people who are familiar with Indian culture know of this one as well, and it's based on your nakshatra. Now you see down here in this box, I have all these things. These are delineations of the Vedic Panchanga. Pancha means 5, Anga means like divisions, and it's the fivefold or like limbs. It's the fivefold limbs of time, and this, Var means day, so this is my Panchanga when I was born. I was born on Mars Day. The Nakshatra was Vishaka. The Titi, which I'll talk about in a minute, was Ekadashi. And then the Karana, which is half a day, was Vishti. And the Yoga, which is called Sadhya, which has to do with the longitude of the sun and the moon. So, the Nakshatra return, it actually happens every month. So, again, bear in mind what we just looked at. We just looked at a solar return is called a birthday. It's when the sun comes back to its birth position. That only happens once a year. But the moon goes to its birth position 12 times a year, once a month. So actually, you can celebrate the rebirth of your moon, of your mind and consciousness every month. Because the moon returns to your birth nakshatra and birth titi every month. So you can celebrate that every month, and it actually happens. Like, for instance, with my guru, Amma, because she's a Sadguru, she's an enlightened master, and people praise her and want to stay connected to her, we celebrate her birth star every month. When the moon goes through Kartika, or what's actually called Kritika, we do a Kartika Puja, because Amma was born when the moon was in Kritika. So every month when that happens, we celebrate. You can do that too. When the moon goes back to your nakshatra each year, each month, you can celebrate. Now, it's interesting because, of course, this is not going to happen on your Varsha Pole day. At least not usually. The sun and the moon, the sun and the moon aren't usually in the same nakshatras that you were born in. So, like, for instance, for me this year, I looked. What has to happen is you have to have the sun in the same sidereal Rashi and then the moon in the same nakshatra. And so this happened for me actually on, I think it was June 19th. Let's go back and see. So this is the chart of the day. So we want to have the sun here and then the moon here. So if we go back, I think it's like 2 weeks. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Oops, 1 day. Okay, Swati, couple hours. Okay, so this is the day of my, oops, the moon is Vishaka here. This is the day of my birthday, like my nakshatra birthday, because we have the sun is in Gemini, and it's in the month of Ashad. I was born in the month of Ashad. That's the Vedic month. The Hindu calendar, I was born in the month of Ashad with the moon in Vishaka. Let me go back and show you this. This is the month of Ashad, and the moon is in Vishaka on the 11th lunar day. The 11th Titi is what it's called. So again, my nakshatra birthday is when, first of all, it happens every month, but when it happens in the month when the sun is also in the same Rashi, then you can celebrate your nakshatra birthday that year. So many times Indians will celebrate their annual birthday on the day that the sun is in the same Rashi they were born, and then the moon goes into the nakshatra, the Janma nakshatra. So for me, that would have been June 20th this year. So June 20th, the moon went into Libra, I'm sorry, the moon went into Vishaka Nakshatra, and the sun was in Gemini. So that would have been like my birthday, my Nakshatra birthday. Because it's still the month of Ashad, and the moon is in the Nakshatra that I was born in. The month before, let's say, on this day, here, I could have also celebrated my birthday. This was on May 24th. The moon was in Vishaka Nakshatra. So I would have had a, if people wanted to, worship me for whatever reason, they could have done the Vishaka Puja, right? Because the moon went through my Janma Nakshatra that day. Janma means birth. So again, you can celebrate the rebirth of your moon, of your mind, every month when the moon goes through your Janma or birth Nakshatra. So that's another birthday that you have. And then the last one we look at is called the Titi Pravesh, and that has to do with the Titi. Titi is the lunar day. So I was born in the month of Ashad. That's what it's called, and it was when the sun was roughly in Gemini. And again, it's hard to know for sure because it has to do with when sun and moon come together, but it was in Ashad. The sun was in Gemini, usually, and the moon was waxing, and it was in Ekadashi, the 11th lunar day. So those three things, Ashad, or let's say the sun in Gemini is more important for the Titi Pravesh. Sun in sidereal Gemini, waxing moon in Ekadashi. So it's called Shukla Paksha Ekadashi. So Shukla Ekadashi, Ashad, or the sun in Gemini, sidereal Gemini. So you got to find that, and then you find the Titi Pravesh. Now, I believe, I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that this Titi Pravesh technique really originated from Sanjay Roth, the Indian astrologer. It didn't originate from him, but he resurrected the technique, I think. I'm not sure which text it came from, but he deserves a credit for bringing that out again. This Titi Pravesh is a very interesting and comprehensive chart because it shows, you see here, this is 2013, this is June 19th, 2013. So the day before my Nakshatra birthday, which as you remember was this day, June 20th, because the moon was in Vishaka. The day before that, if you look at the Titi, it was the 12th lunar day. So remember, I was born on the 11th lunar day. So it's just the day before. One day before. So now we have sun in Gemini. We have waxing moon, Ekadashi. You see? So sun in Gemini, month. It's the Hindu month of Ashad, and it's Shukla Paksha Ekadashi. Ekadashi Shukla Paksha. 11th lunar day of waxing moon, and there's the moon in Libra. So this is my Titi Pravesh birthday. Now this one is very interesting because it actually brings together sun, moon, and earth. Literally, because this is the angle between the sun and the moon. This emulates the same angle that the sun and moon were in when I was born. And the sun was in the same sign too. So this one is actually the closest in many ways to emulating my birth conditions. Because the earth going around the sun, which is showed by which sign the sun is in, is pretty close. It's the same sign. Because remember, when I was born, it's still Gemini. The sun is in Gemini. This is my birth chart. But 16 Gemini. But here, the sun is in Gemini. And the angle of the moon and the sun is exactly the same. The 11th lunar day, when the sun is in Gemini, which is the same thing when I was born. The 11th lunar day, Ekadashi, when the sun was in Gemini. Now again, it just happens to coincide this year with, it happens to be very close to the Nakshatra as well, which it's usually very close to it because, well, it actually, you can't really tell. Sometimes it's not going to be that close. But this year it happened to be pretty close. because the sun could be over here, and then but the moon is always going to be somewhere near here. It's always going to be somewhere near this fifth house, because that's the same angle between the sun and the moon as when I was born. So this Tithi Pravesh is very important. Like I said, it brings together sun, moon, and earth, because the earth, the sun is almost at almost the exact same point as when I was born, because the sun is in Gemini. But then the moon and sun are also like exact. And the Tithi Pravesh chart is cast for the exact moment that that the Tithi emulates your birth Tithi. What I mean to say is this 11th lunar day is not just a day, there's actually a moment. It's actually one moment. Just like when we looked at this solar return chart, you remember it was when the sun came to 1652. Remember, that was the exact moment that we did the Varsha Pole. Exact moment, not just that day. Exact moment, that's when you cast the chart. So with the solar return, with the Varsha Pole chart, it's the exact moment. Same thing with the Tithi Pravesh, because when I was born, there was an exact portion of the Tithi, which means the 11th lunar day, and we can just look and see. This is my birth chart. So it's ekadashi. I'll go back a few hours, and let's see, when does it change to the 10th lunar day? Let's see when it changes to dashami. Let's go back a few hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so 20. So it had gone into ekadashi like 20 hours earlier. Okay, it was in dashami. It was in Swati. Then it goes into ekadashi. So in the Tithi Pravesh chart, in the Tithi Pravesh chart, you cast the chart for the exact same portion of the Tithi. That's when you cast the Tithi Pravesh chart. So you wouldn't just do it when the sun entered, when the moon entered ekadashi. It would be when the moon was like 20 hours into ekadashi, exactly with the same portion that my Tithi was when I was born. Same way, if you want to be really exact about a nakshatra birthday, you would do the same thing. The portion of the nakshatra that the moon had covered, you want to cast a chart for the exact same portion of the nakshatra. This is important. This is how you do moments in astrology. Astrology is very precise. It's not like the day. It's the moment. It's like people say, can you find a good day for me to do something? It's like, you can find a good day is irrelevant, because even within a good day, there are going to be portions in the good day that stink. We're not looking at days, we're looking at moments in astrology. You need to find a good moment. So you cast these charts for the exact moments that the sky corresponds with the birth moment. So, the Varsha Pole is about the sun, and it's about your, it's like about your soul power in that year. The Nakshatra birthday, if you cast a chart for the Nakshatra birthday, the moment, like I say, as soon as it covered is just the same amount of portion as your Nakshatra, the Nakshatra really connects your mind with the celestial energy behind it, because that's what the Nakshatra is. It really has a lot to do with a certain, like, kind of metaphysical power, and just certain, the way I look at the nakshatras as being different from the rashis is more of a kind of sort of individual journey that you're on, sort of like the hero's journey. It's like your personal mythology, and that nakshatra, especially because this is the moon nakshatra as well. This is really how your consciousness is reflecting your soul nature in a kind of celestial way, not in the Rashi way. Like my moon was in Libra, the sign, so that has to do with a lot of how I operate on Earth, how my heart and mind operates on Earth. But Vishaka Nakshatra is like this kind of higher, sort of like universal, guidance that I follow. So the nakshatra birthday is really sort of how your mind connects in a celestial way with the year. And you can also base it more on the nakshatras of the other planets as well. When I've done nakshatra readings before, I've experimented with it a little bit. I've also looked at the other nakshatras, like for instance, rather than looking at the rashis as much, you look at, like for my nakshatra year, you have these planets that were in Arja or whatever. You look at the nakshatras of the other planets as well. So the nakshatra birth chart for the upcoming year would be maybe in that more sort of celestial consciousness unfolding. And then the Titi Pravesh is very much about your life on Earth, because it's sun and moon and Earth lined up in the most correct and most accurate harmonic vibration with each other. Because it's the exact same sort of like phase angle between the sun and moon, like the exact moment that angle is replicated in the sky for that year. And again, that also happens every month. The sun and moon will pass that same phase angle every month. Like every month on the 11th Titi of the 11th phase of the waxing moon, there's a point where it hits the exact same phase angle as my birth. However, only once a year does that happen when the Earth is also in the same portion in its orbit around the sun. That's why the birth month is important, because it's the Earth going around the sun. That's the moment you came out. Again, that's big. It's the moment you incarnated. So that's a very native energy. And this is the way to really look at birth charts anyway. It's really like a return to your like native strength and power, to like embody your true divinity on some level. So with the sun, it's like your sun energy. With the nakshatra, it's like your true divinity around that sort of mythology story. With the sun, moon, and the Titi Pravesh, it's more about like your life on Earth and your potential as, divine father, divine mother, manifestation kind of thing. I know it sounds kind of abstract. It sort of is. I mean, it's sort of esoteric stuff, but you want to also understand that these cycles happen constantly. And that means when any planet goes back over its birth position, it's like a rebirth of that thing. You can take the same principle and just map it over to every planet. We look at the sun as birthday, generally. I just told you about the moon. Every month, we can celebrate a rebirth of our moon. And it gives you an idea of how much we're supposed to be growing emotionally and psychologically as well. Also, when the moon returns to its Titi phase every month, that's a time for you to revisit that phase angle between the sun and the moon. And that ekadashi, in my case, or dwadashi, or dashami, or whatever Titi you were born under, that's how your consciousness is imprinted. Similarly, when Mars makes a return, when Jupiter makes a return, when Mercury, Venus, any planet returns to its natal position, it's a time to that thing reborn, becomes reborn. When the nodes return to their natal position. And also, in fact, when they hit an opposition to its natal position. It's like a reversal of that, and you have to like look at that energy in the mirror. All of these things, these are universal concepts in astrology. So it's really important to understand that, when you're looking at, astrological structures, it's important to understand that it's not just, we celebrate it. We celebrate it because it's actually, it is a return of something deeply native. We pay attention to the birthday because it's related to the sun, but all the planets do this all the time. People will ask me, what happens when all the planets return to when a planet returns to where it was in its natal chart? In a natal chart. Well, it's like a rebirth of that energy, and a very familiar kind of embodied strength, even if it's a difficult energy. That difficulty is native to you, and consequently, it brings a lot of potential to work with it because it's something that you're used to. So that's a sort of an aside. So we have really, to sort of summarize, there's like 4 kinds of birthdays. One is the Gregorian calendar birthday, which is based on the Gregorian calendar day, which is a way to approximate the Earth's orbit around the sun, but it doesn't take into account any other kind of astronomical phenomena, and it falls on the same day every year. Then you have the next closest thing, which is the Varsha Pole, which is when the sun comes back to its exact degree in your natal chart, which is very close to the Gregorian calendar day, but not always the same day, especially if you were born really late or really early in the morning. Sometimes it's not even on the same day. As you get older, it can get further away from it because of what's called the precession equinoxes, which you either get that or you don't. But solar return, Varsha Pole, when the sun comes back to the exact same degree in the sky. Then you have the Nakshatra Return, the Nakshatra birthday, when the Earth returns to pretty much the same spot in the orbit as it was when you were born, and then your nakshatra, and then the moon goes through your birth nakshatra. That's like a nakshatra birthday. And again, that also emulates the moon going around the zodiac every month, where you can celebrate your lunar birthday every month when the moon returns to your Janma Nakshatra, your birth nakshatra. And then finally we have the Titi Pravesh, which is when the Earth returns to its, very close to the exact same portion of the sky in its orbit around the sun, and then the same angle between the sun and moon line up again. So whether it's waxing or waning cycle of the moon, and then whether it's, day 1 through 15, the exact same, phase angle that you were born under happens between sun and moon, and then the Earth is also very close to where it was in its orbit around the sun, and that really brings together body, mind, and spirit in a way that's quite powerful. And when you want to do it correctly, not just on that day, you want to draw a chart for these exact moments, just like we did with the Varsha Pole chart. Exact moment that it hits that degree, you draw the chart. The exact moment that the moon covers the same portion that it went through the nakshatra in your birth chart, that's when you draw it. The same moment that the moon goes through the exact same portion of the Titi, you draw the chart. And then you get a chart for the year based on that thing. So I hope this wasn't too complicated, but it's very interesting stuff to ponder, cycles of time, seasons of time, and how they play out. And it's a very interesting thing. So thanks for watching.